Hi, everyone. Welcome to this next episode of Confessions of CX Manager. This is a series about the experiences, but also best practices and tips from CX leaders and managers. And today, my special guest is Erin Applebee, customer advocate at Faire. Hi, Erin.
Hello, thank you for having me.
So, Erin, tell me actually a little bit more about yourself and about the role. What kind of objectives, I guess, do you have at the moment?
Yeah, so I've been at Fair for almost 4 years now, and actually started in our customer support team, so answering tickets directly with our customers. But as a customer advocate, I ensure that our customers' voices are heard throughout the product development lifecycle, and I also prepare our customers and our in-house teams for any feature releases. So specifically, I have two kind of main objectives. One is ensuring operational readiness for our customer support teams. So, this includes equipping our teams with the necessary tools and information to provide the best possible customer support. So, this includes developing policies and procedures for our support team, collaborating with our enablement team to train them. I also help to ensure that our customers have all of the required information that they might need in order to use the features, and this includes any help center articles or in product facts. And then the second part of my job is collecting and sharing customer insights. So we ensure that we utilize data in both proactive and reactive ways by incorporating customer sentiment and perspectives into different stages of our product development process. We're able to highlight trends and provide recommendations. So this approach helps shape our product roadmaps, improve contact rate, enhance our virtual assistants, and also improve customer satisfaction. Currently, I support on two product work streams. So one of them is dedicated to improving financial tools for our brands and retailers. And the other is focusing on optimizing the shipping experience. And actually, both of these teams are launching customer oriented features this year, which is really exciting.
Wow, that sounds really amazing. But I have to say, this sounds like a very unique role, something in between customer support and product.
Yeah, so it's definitely in between. So I sit on the customer support team. I'm part of the customer support team, but I work quite closely with product managers and engineering, and kind of this, middle place, a common ground between the both. So I get to see kind of both sides, which is really nice. And it really offers me the opportunity to collaborate with a lot of different people who are taking on really interesting work.
Which is great. And you're enabling all of them with customer insights. Are you then a team of one or there's someone else with you?
No, yeah, we're actually a team of, I think we're about 7 customer advocates, and we all work on different, what we call pods. So the different teams that are working on different kind of functions on the platform.
Nice. So a mighty team.
Yes, yes. We really small but mighty.
So Erin, I want to talk to you about the importance of user or customer feedback. This can be a goldmine of insights, right? And many times what we hear from our customers is that customer feedback really can guide your decisions and your strategy. So tell me, what are the areas for you and for your team that you're trying to change or improve by using insights from your customer feedback?
Um, this one really kind of depends on what specific project I'm working on and the collaborators involved and the product development stage. To provide a bit of context, before a feature launches, generally my focus is on understanding how customers are going to use the product and gather any feedback on how customers currently interact with this area and what requests we've had for a feature like this. So I might be looking at if there are currently any customer pain points about a specific topic or things that they find confusing about a common feature on the platform. And one reason for sharing this feedback at this stage is to help to make sure that we're making improvements according to the customer's needs and things that they want and what they're going to use on the platform and how it can actually help them. And then mid launch, while I'm collaborating with our enablement team, I like to review any past feedback to help anticipate customer questions, pain points, or edge cases that come up so that we can equip our customer support team with the answers to address them directly to our customers. Um, or making sure that that information is in our help center or our in product FAQs so that customers can self serve if they have a question that comes up. And then for net new features, we consider if there are similar projects and how our customers previously reacted to those features. We like to find the commonalities to provide some educated insight into how customers might feel or react. And then there's also another stage, this like post launch, where we're looking at other feedback as well. So I like to monitor the feedback that comes through with customers who are actually using the feature as it's launched. So if there are any issues or outstanding questions, sharing the feedback in a timely manner allows Faire to make quick changes to help our customers. We want to make sure that our customers are satisfied with this feature, but also if the sentiment is neutral or negative, we want to look to see if there's any changes that we can make to improve the customer satisfaction.
But that's great. It sounds like you're basically monitoring the entire user journey and you're interested in that feedback before the launch as well as after the launch.
Yes, that's exactly right.
A follow-up question. Are you working towards any specific KPIs or metrics, any specific metrics that you're looking to improve as well?
Yeah. So I think one of them is obviously customer satisfaction in certain tools. So I'm working on two product areas specifically right now. So improving financial tools for our brands and retailers. And right now we're gradually rolling out a feature to help our retailers um, have a easier time making payments at Fair. And so one of the things for that one is I want to look at how many people are actually opting to use this feature as opposed to deciding to continue to use a credit card in our traditional payment form. So that's one of them. Definitely, how many people are using the platform and the feature. And then for shipping experience, I'm looking at things like, how do people feel about the cost of shipping, the time it takes for a product to be delivered, and things like that. So, really, definitely the customer experience, the customer sentiment, and the contact rate. I think that's another one that I'm definitely always monitoring.
So tell me a little bit more. What is your like day-to-day work with the platform? What do you do the first thing, let's say when you log in on Monday or every morning?
Yeah. So recently I actually just saw that you guys have a new themes section. If people don't have it yet, look forward to using it. So I actually really check that almost every single time I log in now because many of the teams that I work with manage multiple areas of ownership. So I often need to look at these individual smaller areas of ownership, but also the larger theme. And the theme section actually lets me do this really easily. I can pick that umbrella topic and then look into the subtopics. And then with it, it includes the sentiment and volume over time. Those are the general two reports that I pull first thing when I'm going into Chattermill. So I find that it's really helpful to have them both right there, and I don't actually have to do any of the work. You guys have done it for me. And those umbrella topics are really personalized to Faire, which I imagine probably everybody who uses Chattermill has different kind of umbrella topics. So ours are really personalized. So it's super helpful for me to look at the shipping experience or, financial tools.
I'm glad that you like it. Our product team will be absolutely over the moon for that feedback. So thanks for sharing it. But you also mentioned reports, right? Can you maybe walk us through an example of a report or a dashboard that you're looking into on a regular basis?
Yeah, as I mentioned, I check average volume all the time. That's one of the key things that I'm looking at. I report to my managers to ensure that, our volume isn't for ticket requests hasn't gone up, where we're seeing a lot of customers who might be experiencing a similar issue. So that's one of the main ones that I look for and I pull on every single topic. So, when I see that there's an increase, it really makes me curious to dig a little deeper and find out what's changed for our customers and why people might be reaching out more. So, from that, I then can pull in the actual feedback from customers and identify any common topics that might be coming up. So, that average volume generally leads me to my next report, which is actually kind of finding the feedback there. And then on the other hand, if the volume goes down, it provides a great chance to maybe celebrate a feature and celebrate the team for a change that they might have made that's kind of positively influenced our contact rate. So, as I mentioned, depending on what I find when I look at average volume, that kind of creates this trickle effect on where I go next.
Got it. And are you looking mostly at, into negative things, trying to find the issues, what's not working, or maybe are you also looking into positive feedback from your customers?
Yeah, I actually think they're both really important. I think the negative feedback can, help us see maybe where customers might be struggling to understand or, if there's a pain point, if something that maybe we could improve. But then that positive feedback also lets us know, what things customers might be looking for. If we've seen some positive feedback about, placing orders, we can kind of see what was working in that section and maybe use it for, some changes to the shipping experience, things like that. So
Mm.
definitely both are really important.
And also, it's a nice way to celebrate it with the team.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, that's great.
Mhm.
Um, to follow up about those negative things, how do you, when you're looking into negative feedback from customers, how do you prioritize, I guess, the things that you and your team want to fix in the first place?
Yeah. That's a great question. So when I'm sharing feedback, to my teams or my manager, I like to look at a few things. I like to look at how many people are being impacted. I like to look at how it's impacting them, why it might be impacting them, and what resources we are currently using to help solve the issues. So for me, this involves looking at things like contact rate to determine how many people are being impacted. This also involves reviewing direct feedback or support requests that come in to help determine how it's impacting them. For example, I want to know if it's kind of a visual experience that's confusing, or is it actually impacting their, margins, their profits, or their ability to use a core aspect of the platform. And then I also like to look at resources. So, what resources are we using to help the customer? So, this includes things like our average handle time, but it also includes things like how many requests we might actually have to be escalating to our engineering team. If we're doing a lot of escalating to our engineering team, are there some enablement changes that we can make for CX so that we can kind of troubleshoot and help the customer? So I find that looking at all of this information, although it is a lot, it kind of give a big picture. So I make sure that I'm sharing all of the information with, people who are going to make the decisions on our kind of roadmap items.
Speaking of escalating and sharing, right? What is the next step? How do you take it from there? I guess how do you make sure that relevant teams actually get the right information and act on it?
Yeah. So this one also kind of varies depending on the product stage and also who I might be collaborating with. So, sometimes I share feedback live in a meeting. We often have regular opportunities to connect with project managers and managers to share feedback. And if I've created a dashboard, I'll generally walk through some of the reports and what they mean. And then I love the fact that I can kind of share the link that if they want to go and dig deeper into some of that feedback, they can do that as well. On a newer feature after, that post launch, I generally conduct kind of bi-weekly reviews of all the feedback related to specific features. And then I like to group them by theme and identify any underlying causes of the feedback. And then, I'll share either directly in a Slack channel relevant to the feature or again at one of those live meetings. In some cases, I find it very helpful to provide the granular feedback on each individual user as opposed to kind of grouping them in themes. So this is very helpful in situations where people might be opting out of using a feature. We want to know generally on each individual level why they would rather opt out. And then other times, when we are in the midst of launching something and we're maybe doing that like pre-launch, I perform weekly reviews of kind of general feedback. I like to incorporate the, qualitative and quantitative data. And then, finally, I really actually love using the workflows. So this is a really kind of easy, passive way to share feedback and other people at Faire can review the feedback as they would like as it kind of comes into the channel. So it makes it quite easy for other teams and other people who actually might not have access to Chattermill to be able to review feedback regularly. And I find that really helpful for them to kind of get eyes on it as well.
That sounds great. Um, I wanted to talk to you also a little bit about, maybe how did you do it before? Chattermill as well, there is that AI component that helps us analyze that customer feedback. And I'm curious to hear what would you say is the biggest benefit of it for you and for your organization? And how did you do it before actually using Chattermill?
There is quite a few areas where we kind of collect feedback from. We have support tickets that come in, but we also have kind of surveys. We have feedback from our sales team. They use, Salesforce to input their feedback. And so previously, I didn't always have access to all of the feedback, whereas Chattermill kind of, aggregates it into this one place. So for me, one of the biggest advantages of using AI is actually the amount of time it can save. I don't
Mhm.
kind of hunt all of the feedback in different places. It's all in one place. On top of that, we receive a lot of different types of feedback, a lot of support requests, and it can be time consuming, as I mentioned, to try to organize it and read through it. It also really helps save time in that aspect, summarizing and categorizing the feedback into similar topics, which makes it easy to review and understand the overall picture. And so I find it, as I mentioned, it saves me a lot of time. I can easily respond to the feedback that comes in when I find it and when I see it. Um, this helps to make sure that we're not lagging in our responses. If it comes in and I, find it, we can hopefully maybe action on it, in the next few weeks if it's a really big pain point for
Yeah.
customers.
I love what you said about that speed of insight element, which I think is also really, really important. Erin, I wanted to talk a little bit about maybe some, real life examples. That's always my favorite part. So, could you share maybe some examples of insights that you found in Chattermill that really made a difference for you and your company or the team, like really impacted your decision making or maybe a strategy?
I, one example that really stuck out was last year. I was working on a team that was developing a feature which would allow um, retailers to be the sole stockist of a brand's product in their local area. So during this period, we were in that kind of gradual rollout stage. So not everybody had access to it, and we were really closely monitoring the feedback. And so I was providing weekly updates on feedback that we received. So using Chattermill, I was able to, as I mentioned, easily look at feedback from multiple sources. Um, One of the early kind of pieces of feedback that came out was that people wanted to be able to kind of customize these arrangements. So when we this feature, it was you would set kind of an agreement with all retailers on Faire, and they would have the same agreement. So same annual spend, same kind of location area that would be protected.
Mhm.
And so the feedback that we heard was that people, are unique and they have unique relationships with other retailers, and that's really what they were looking for, this ability to kind of customize their agreements. And so with all that being said, I'm happy to share that just a year later, so earlier this January, they launched these custom agreements to brands and retailers. So now they can set these individual unique agreements. And the feedback really helped us to kind of determine what areas they wanted to customize. So really the spending amount and the location, the size of the area were two things that were really top of mind for both brands and retailers. And I had a look, and since the launch, more brands and retailers are setting up these custom agreements each week, which is really nice to see. That Chattermill helped us find that feedback. No doubt that even when I wasn't on the team anymore, they were continuing to collect the feedback specifically to these custom agreements and worked on launching them for the customer in what they needed.
Congratulations. Sounds like it was really well received by, the team and the customers as well. And I think it's so rewarding, right? To see that the work that you're doing really impacts the overall product strategy, which is great. Let's move to what I call the rapid fire question session. So I've got 15 questions, very quick ones. Just think about, the first thing that comes to your mind. Okay. What's your secret superpower as a CX leader?
Yeah, I would say my curiosity.
The first thing you check in Chattermill each Monday?
And lately, that themes section I really love. And I think before that, you had a one called Copilot where you could ask a question and it would kind of prompt the answer. So those are definitely two I love to check.
Which feedback channels matter most to your team?
Yeah, I think all of our channels matter. I wouldn't necessarily rate one above the other, but we receive a lot of support tickets. So generally, that's the one that has kind of the most feedback.
And what would you say is the most underrated feedback source?
Um, I would say internal feedback. With that being said, I think internal feedback is super insightful and super important. So if you don't already like get an internal feedback tool, you can use Slack with a workflow that sends it to Chattermill to kind of get that insight into, people who are directly talking to your customers each day.
One CX metric you're obsessed with?
I think I've talked about it a few times. Contact rate definitely is one that I use a lot.
And biggest CX myth you wish would disappear?
We definitely focus on speed. And I've mentioned speed, with AI and things like that, we can definitely help our customers faster. But I think one of the biggest myths is that your support needs to be really fast. When in reality, I think it also needs to be, we need to be providing accurate support. We need to be like showing empathy for our customers. And we also need to have personalized support. So it's really this happy medium between, resolution time and those other factors as well.
Um, the most unexpected insight from customer feedback that you found?
Yeah, and for me, it's when customers use the product in a way that we haven't intended. So they're trying to make it do something that it isn't intended for. That generally spurs an idea of like, oh, wait, maybe we needed a feature for what they're actually trying to do.
Hmm. What's the best compliment a customer has given your team?
I always love when customers tell us how much they trust us. I feel like that's a really kind of big confidence boost and it shows how important we are, to their, business and having a relationship with us. So, generally when they say they trust us, and we're helping them be successful, I think those are the best ones.
Favorite Chattermill feature and why?
I really loved the themes section. I think I mentioned it above. But as I mentioned, I also really love the workflows. I love that you can kind of connect Slack and Chattermill together and you can, pull the feedback into multiple different places. So I really love that.
One thing CX teams should stop doing immediately.
Um, this ties into my earlier response that, feedback should be personalized. I think we shouldn't assume that the customer hasn't attempted to kind of already resolve the issue on their own. Generally, CX can kind of view what the customer has been doing to try to troubleshoot. And so we need to take that information and add it to our responses as opposed to, there's that classic IT, did you try turning it off and on? I think, we can definitely start a little bit later if we can see that they've, already tried some of those steps.
My favorite question now. What's the most rewarding part of your job?
Yeah, do love hearing that the feature has kind of made a difference for a customer, whether it's made their life easier, whether it's helped them get more sales, uh, you know, in any way that it's made a difference for them. That's really nice to hear.
And the best piece of career advice you've ever received?
Yeah, I would say, the best piece of advice is to not be afraid to share your ideas. It can be intimidating to go into these meetings and, you might be sharing feedback and, maybe you have an idea on how you can make it a little bit customer centric or solve a customer problem. And so just not being afraid to kind of share that.
And the last one, if your CX team had a tagline, what would it be?
Yeah. So my team, the customer advocates at Faire, I'd say that we're the extreme team.
You have to elaborate on this. Why extreme?
I think, we are really great, not to toot our own horns, but we're really great collaborative partners and we're taking on a lot of, different projects and we get to be these advocates for our customers and sometimes we can be extreme about being advocates. We're really passionate about when something isn't working. So I think that's I think that's why.
Erin, it was absolutely a pleasure. I actually had a lot of fun. So thank you so much for joining me. Lots of great insights. I can't wait to share this interview with the rest of our team, but also with our audience and with our community. I'm sure everyone will find so much from what you just shared with us. So really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for having me. This was great.